Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to share a little tip that we teach in our MTP training room for MTPredictor customers, and that's using our DP decision point from the last swing into a high or low. But before we get on to this, as usual, we have to look at our risk disclaimer. Just remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, and more importantly accept, that losses can and will and do unfold when trading. This important point this is, and everyone should understand that losses can and will and always do unfold. All trade decisions are your own sole responsibility. Right, let's have a look at a good example that's been just unfolding on a 15-minute chart of the NQ. We've been following the 15-minute charts quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, so it's nice to then have another look at a good example that's just unfolded. This is actually on the 24-hour session here. So what do I mean for a DP from the last swing, from the high or the last high or low? If I go back to here somewhere, and we can see that the NQ rallied up and made a high here. Can you see that? In fact, if I go back a few more bars, even more obvious. There's the high there. So we look at the last swing into the high. So if that's the high, the last swing is from here. Do you see that? From there up into that high. So that's the last swing into this high. So we come back to here, we right mouse click, we do decision point. So this is an area of potential support. Support because the market's coming down to that. So do you see how it's on the chart in advance? And it's the DP from the last swing into the high or low. If I turn training mode off, we can see what the NQ's done since then. Our MTP trend was red, therefore indicating the large degree trend was down, even though this has been a rally up here. But see what the NQ has just done. If I drag that over, you can see we had a TS3 sell setup here, and the market went down and then found a low at this DP support zone. So for people who are trading this TS3 sell setup here, if I place the analysis on, rather than just looking to come out at the first target here, you could have actually decided to, well actually no, I want to wait until the slightly lower target down here, because this was the DP of the last swing into the high or low. Also, if I right mouse click at the top here, this was actually also a 5-wave sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a very sloppy 5-wave sequence. Ideally we'd like to see wave 3 the longest, and this is just quite a sloppy one, but it was a 5-wave sequence nevertheless. And normally what we say is after a completed 5-wave sequence, the minimum target is the DP from the prior wave 4, which is exactly the same as we had here. So a couple of reasons why this could have been a good support zone. I'll just take that Elliott wave count off, because again it's a bit of a sloppy count. So that's a good example that's just unfolded. Were there any others? Yes, if I look at the 3-minute chart of the YM on a day session only, again this is a good way to help manage your trades. You can see that the MTP trend was blue, the market rallied up and basically chopped sideways. We had a TS3 buy setup a bit later in the day. If I zoom in, valid setup on a blue MTP trend. If I right mouse click, place the analysis on, you can see that it got nowhere near its target. Would have been nice if it had done, but it didn't. Came up and then retrace back. So were there any other places where this might well make a high? Well, again, if I clear everything off, here's the last swing into this low. Do you see that? There's the TS3 buy setup on the low. This is the last swing into the low. So if I go back to in around here, you can see it even clearer, the last swing into the low. So I right mouse click from this high, do DP. Again, this is a potential resistance zone. See again how it's on the chart in advance. So if I now exit replay mode, can you see how the market went up? Tag that nicely just before coming down, just before close. So some of the more advanced traders among you, if you're in this particular trade setup, rather than waiting for the market to get all the way up to here, knowing that you're only a short time before close, perhaps you might have said, well actually I might like to come out at this particular target, or use this as a target for 5.5 or 5.8 hour profit, or you might decide to trail with your just below the 1 bar lows once it reached that level there. But you see how this gives you an area of support or resistance that very often does unfold. Does it happen all the time? Of course not. Let's have a look at the same setup on the ES. Here's just like we had on the NQ, here's the last swing into the high. If I right mouse click down here, this would be an area of support. As you can see, the market never got there. So it never got to that support zone. So that one didn't work. Again, here's our same tier 3 buy setup as we had on the YM. If I place the analysis on, as with the YM, it never reached the target before going back down. But if we place the DP off the last swing into what would have been that low there, just as we did on the YM, you can see that ES didn't make it. It didn't quite make it up there. I mean, if it had done it, it would have been nice, because that would have been a nice 5-hour profit. So this is a good technique that you can use, but as with all trading, nothing's 100%. And as we've seen on this ES example, there are times when this particular technique doesn't work. But when it does, like this, then it's a good one to use. And as you can see here, this would have helped you on this long trade on the YM from yesterday, and also this nice short trade on the NQ 24-hour session 15-minute chart that's just unfolded. Also like to remind you that losses always will do occur. So if we go back and have a look at the previous day, there were some losing trades on the YM there yesterday. Interesting enough though, if you're a more experienced user, because the previous day was a really wide range up day, you'd probably have known that the day after that was going to be a sideways choppy day, and you might have had to be more cautious. But just wanted to show a couple of losing trades in this video, just to remind you that losses can and will and do occur. And also, as we've seen on the ES, markets don't always do exactly what you anticipate, as we've seen in some other videos recently as well. But this is a good little tip or technique to use, is the DP from the last swing to the higher low. So again, what we're looking for is a last swing into a higher low, in this case the last swing to this low here. Right mouse click off the previous pivot, and that gives you an area of support or resistance in advance. As you can see, it does actually work nicely sometimes, and when it does, it's a great one to use. Again, if I take this off on the 15-minute NQ, you can see there's our connected pivots, there's the high, there's the last swing. It's the last swing into the high. This is the pivot to use. Right mouse click DP. This would be an area of potential support, and as you can see, it's turned out very nicely indeed on that example. So a little tip for you guys for using the DP from the last swing to the higher low. Again, this shows you that MTPredictor is not just a black box system. We don't like trading it like that because we know markets go in cycles, and you shouldn't be trading any system 100% of the time anyway. You should only be trading when the pattern is clear. But this is a good little tip. So even if you're not using our MTPredictor trade setups, you can anticipate areas of potential future support and resistance using this DP from the last swing into the higher low. Just a good little tip for you guys who are a bit more experienced with MTPredictor and want to use other tools that are in our software apart from our automatic trade setups.